Hello?
Oh, hi, Jim.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So we're just doing this for our own good, huh?
No, it's being recorded so that they will
Oh,
play
right.
it. Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So I was going to put up um, logo on the back.
Cool.
Yeah, I just got off with our UCLA friends.
Great.
They talked about their center,
How are
and
they doing?
they're doing good. Sarika wasn't on, but Jen White, who's one of the newer dietitians, was on. Dr. Matsumoto
Oh, good.
and Beck Reyes, their nurse. So we had a good active discussion about their program.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And you went up north.
Went up to Door County. Mm-hmm.
I had another friend who just went up there too for a week or so and had a great time.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. And they were struggling this summer because it's a tourist place and
Right.
a lot of Chicagoans come up there. So they had a huge outbreak.
Oh,
this
really?
summer. Yeah. Yeah. But they were following strict guidelines, and that this huge portable digital sign as you're entering into the door saying, we want you to be safe. You got to wear your mask, follow the rules, social distance and all that. And restaurants were at 25% seating capacity. So they were, doing everything they could. Plus there was hardly anyone there because this is really post-season.
Yeah, it's late.
Yeah, the weekend that most of the places shut down, and a lot of places were already closed because they rely on their foreign seasonal employees who couldn't come. So it was a lot of places, I guess, closed up earlier or just had minimal business open time.
Okay.
But we had a nice time.
Nice. Before I forget, I would like to, having trouble with the slide thing again. So after this is over, I'm going to be talking to Emma this afternoon, and I'm going to see if we can do our presentation for Brighton next week, because I know this is a bad week for you. And I'm going to have to pick your brain and stuff.
Yeah, that would be fine. If she says no for some reason, I'll just make time in the evening, Jim. It's not a problem.
Okay, but I'll try. I'm pretty sure there's no rush.
Oh, okay. And the other thing is that email from Josephine, I think we can use your same presentation if Emma can.
Yeah, sure. If you said, I think the presentation is probably going to be 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
And
Hi.
Hi.
So
And,
I don't have a picture. Is that okay?
What?
I'm not on a picture. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay, good.
Although your name is spelled wrong.
My name is spelled wrong?
Nancy?
Yeah,
Nancy.
Or Abrams? On my Zoom?
Yeah, it's spelled with an M instead of two N's.
Oh.
That's all right.
I don't even know how to fix that.
I think you go into your settings.
I'm not going to do that right now.
No. In fact,
Okay.
We probably, we should wait. There was one attendee at the UCLA session, which just finished, and she said she had a really difficult time getting in, and so it's possible we won't have any attendees.
Okay.
But this is being recorded.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, the recording is going right now. I can't shut it off. I was hoping I would have the ability to shut it off so I can,
Well, in the alternative, you can just tell us to shut up.
What is that? Shut up, Mr. President.
man. All
How are
right.
things there? Oh, well, this is being recorded. We don't need to go into that.
Yeah. That's why I sent
Okay.
you that text. I thought, okay, we should be careful. But I do
Okay,
think
great.
they're going to be editing this because there's, the last session, instead of going for 50 minutes, it went for 30 because there was no one there to ask questions,
Right,
which is what we're
Right.
relying on. They want
right.
this to be interactive. So same thing might happen.
Okay.
Oh, what video are you showing?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
No, I've been showing videos from YouTube.
Yeah.
I showed your introductory one first thing this morning.
Okay, cool.
But unfortunately, at the very end of the video, there's two
No
videos
kidding. No
screens
kidding.
pop up.
It's horrible. And I
What happened?
asked, what's his name, what we can do, right? It goes right up and right over where it says Charlie never had another seizure. There's a
Yeah.
big logo that comes up. So you never see those words.
Ay,
It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's just so aggravating. And I've asked Torrin about it. He said, well, now in this day and age, that's what they do to,
and it's the Charlie Foundation logo?
yeah, it's the Charlie Foundation logo, but it blocks the words. It
His
says,
process.
and what happened to Charlie? And it says, he's boxes and plays piano and teaches and.
Well,
that
maybe
stuff.
that should be the first question,
Well,
or at least the third question,
oh, yeah,
so that
But I
they can
mean,
say what happened.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody who sees it on our website, the whole point is he never had another seizure.
Yeah,
And
Right.
it's blocked.
it's blocked.
Right.
So
And Torrin just says, well, that's the nature of YouTube these days. They gotta put advertisements at the end of your videos.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
yeah, I don't like it either. So we'll give this a few more minutes. If no one joins, then we're just gonna go.
Okay.
Do you have your charge there in front of you? James there in front of you? Nancy?
No, not till 12:30.
Oh,
So that might work out.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's why I'm where I need to be, so I don't have to drive because it's in the mountains.
Okay,
So I'm stationary.
okay, good.
Nancy,
Yeah,
I like that.
Nancy.
Nancy,
Nancy.
that's what it says.
I could go with that.
Yeah.
Time to change things up a little. Jim, what time are you talking to Emma?
I don't know. I haven't checked. She's sometime after 10:30 her time, which is
6 hours,
2:30 our time.
9 hours.
I think they
okay.
are.
8 hours. Okay. No, it's because I was
But
going
I
to bring
haven't heard
James
back.
over.
No, I don't even know. It's not a done deal.
Okay, let me know, and then I'll bring her over.
Okay, good.
Yeah, now with over London is only 7 cents instead of 8. I have your Livingston book out here. I showed this morning.
Nice. Which one is that? The 72 or 73 or 54?
Let's see, you gave it to me. It's
Yeah.
54. the early
54.
one.
Wow. Yeah, that's good.
The original.
Actually, the numbers in the 73 one or something are better, but this proves.
Oh, is
it was
that
working
right?
Back then.
Is the chapter on dietary therapy much different?
Well, he just by then, he had a lot more data. I mean, he had tried it, he documented a lot more patients. I think the
Oh,
73, he has like 500 and something patients who he
okay.
put on the diet. And the efficacy was about the same, maybe better.
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory, of course, that the reason if today the efficacy isn't quite what it was is because now there are 20 drugs to go through before a kid starts the diet.
Well, and that people are using such liberal diets now, sometimes it's worth going back to what worked. You know,
Right.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
yeah, when people come to me and say, I just talked to a mom this morning who said, we're doing a very liberal diet, but his ketosis is up and down. And I
Oh,
said,
there's your
okay,
answer.
we can fix that. This is how you do
Right.
that. Means a little bit more work, but it'll be worth
So
it.
they don't even say modified anymore. They're using liberal.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting too, because in one of the segments, the interviews with Eric, he seemed to be very much in favor of that, mixing and matching and what works here, kind of whatever works thing, instead of
Well,
sticking to,
I would think the severity of the seizures would direct which way you go.
in frequency.
The frequency.
Yeah.
It's certainly
Yeah.
people. I find that people are more motivated to do strict when there's more of a desperation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's true for epilepsy and cancer and whatever the condition is. They just are
Yeah.
they're just more willing to go.
The
And
extra mile.
I always like to say, I like to start out really strict and then we can loosen up. But to get you into a good sustained state of ketosis, this is how I'm going to show you how to do this. And you can just stick with it for a month and then you can start, if you want to loosen up. I can
But
use
just to get the kid to comply, you would think you need to cut out the stuff that you need to cut out, because once you start giving that little bit of leeway, they're the ones that are going to think, well, of course I can have this, when you become too iffy.
Yeah, and then that pre-keto handout that you sell in the store, the Whole Foods diet.
Right.
That's the one where they cut out sweets, they cut out gluten, they start eating fats, and I get really good comments about that. I just worked with a dietitian who I trained, and she called me and said, just that alone, the family was reporting he was having a lot, the kid was having a lot less seizures, and they hadn't even started keto yet. So I always love hearing that, because it just makes sense to me that that's sort of a way to weed out who might be a little more liberal without jumping into keto.
That's great.
Dr. Freeman used to say, I think Hopkins was one of the last hospitals that insisted on hospitalizing a kid to start the diet. And part of Freeman's reason was, I want these people to understand this is a real medical treatment. I don't want it soft sell. I don't want it to sound like it's going to be this. This is the real deal. And it sounds like if you kind of ease into the diet, that's another kind of way of not making that point. I mean,
yeah, and I say doing keto is a big learning curve, and I'm going to take you there. But this is a step that can help, and if it does help, it's going to tell us something that can be, guide us a little bit more. All right, well, it is time, and I'm going to assume that no one is joining us. And if they do join us, they're just going to pop in. I don't have to admit them like I normally do in a meeting. So they're just going to pop in, and then it's being recorded. So I'm going to do introductions and then read the background story, and then we'll interview.
Okay.
So, well, welcome everyone. We are with Jim and Nancy Abrams, the founders of the Charlie Foundation, parents of Charlie Abrams, and myself, Beth Zupek-Kania, clinical dietitian. And I've been working with the Charlie Foundation for many years. I want to say 15 years now. We go back. But the important point of today's session is to share, the evolution of the Charlie Foundation and why it came about and what we do. And there's so much more than what we can talk about in this half hour. So I really had to distill it down to a brief paragraph to give you a background of why they started the foundation. So I'm going to read from one of our promotional pieces, a story behind the foundation. So Jim and Nancy wrote that our story began in 1993 when Charlie Abrams suffered through a year of anti-seizure drug failures, a fruitless brain surgery, and countless seizures, sometimes up to 100 a day. Jim asked Charlie's doctor about trying the ketogenic diet. And the reply, and I quote, "We're not done trying different drug combinations." The Abrams family took matters into their own hands and flew Charlie to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. Within days of starting the diet, Charlie's seizures stopped completely. Soon after, he was weaned off of his 4 anti-seizure drugs. So the Charlie Foundation has championed efforts to help others avert this unnecessary, even damaging treatment that Charlie and his family endured. We've made strides in getting the medical community to recognize ketogenic diets as valid therapies for epilepsy, and in informing the public by supporting services such as our website, the Keto Diet Calculator, spearheading published medical guidelines, training medical professionals, and sponsoring conferences. Still, today, nearly a century after the ketogenic diet was developed at the Mayo Clinic, this therapy remains a tragically underutilized method of treating seizures. And so this is why we're always very excited to be a part of something like the Epilepsy EXPO. It's our way to get out the word to the public and to professionals, since this is a combined conference, to get the word out about this therapy, but also how we can help accommodate their center and their people in having access to it. So I want to ask, first, I want to ask Jim and Nancy what Charlie is up to today, because that's one of the most frequent asked questions when I go to conferences. People want to know, what Charlie is doing, because he was a little boy on this diet, which he was on for several years, and most children are on it temporarily for a few years and then they come off, and he's 28 and he eats whatever he wants. So we want to know what he's up to. Jim,
want to start?
We can start with you. You can see Jim. Nancy is
car.
In a car, being a grandma. Nancy, why don't you answer that?
on a phone.
Charlie is he's playing piano. He works with kids as a teacher with the Salvation Army preschool. He went to Santa Monica College and got his certificate. He lives independently with a good friend he went to high school with. He lives his life he's very happy. He's very happy, and he's probably the happiest kid we have. Go ahead.
And you have to add, he boxes.
Oh, he boxes several times a week, and he's always smiling, and he's very proud. And he doesn't remember being on the diet. He
Hmm.
remembers a lot of things in his life, and if we show him videos or pictures, but as far as a day-to-day thing, he doesn't really remember. But I remember the first time I took him to the market, I think he was probably 6 or 7, and it was over, it was a big thing for us to be able to introduce things to him after. But he'll go, and he went to a friend's birthday party the other night and had 3 helpings of meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and people love to watch Charlie eat.
When Charlie was sick and we'd go see a new doctor, Nancy's first question to the doctor was never, can we stop these seizures or can we get him off these drugs? Her first question was always, can he be happy? And he is.
He is. He is. Yeah.
What can parents do to approach their doctor who might not know anything about the ketogenic diet?
Well, my suggestion, I think our suggestion would be to educate yourself first. And there's tons of information on the Charlie Foundation website, including interviews with some of the top pediatric neurologists in the world, who can answer your questions for you and educate you about what the diet is and what it entails. Because frequently, and one of the interesting revelations, at least to me, in the last few years, is that most physicians, a great majority of physicians, never learn about nutrition or diet therapy during their education. So it helps to, they can't give you objective information. What they do frequently is try to talk you out of it by saying it's too hard or spreading some myths about the diet. But on the website, you can see really the most renowned pediatric neurologists who use the ketogenic diet talking. And if it were me back, if Charlie was a boy today and starting seizures, one of the first things I would do would be to educate myself so that I could make an informed joint decision with his physician about the treatment options.
Yeah, and there's so much more available food-wise that when they say, well, your kid can't eat pizza or pasta or this or that or fit in with the family meals, it's not true. There's so much more to pick from, and there's healthy choices. So that should never be a deterrent.
Yes, I mean, did you use spiralized zucchini as spaghetti back when Charlie was little? Was that something that?
Who knew that? We didn't know anything.
Right.
You know, I don't even know if I knew what a zucchini was then. But I just remember shopping for as much butter choices and oils that we could find. And we actually did a lot of Pritikin because there was no keto or any of that stuff. So we actually had a friend that worked at Pritikin. So we went and got a lot of Pritikin flour and that kind of stuff.
Jim, you mentioned pediatric specialists. There's also adult specialists.
Absolutely, yeah.
Too. So Dr. Mackenzie Cervenka, for example, is an adult epileptologist at Johns Hopkins, and she.
Yes, and interestingly, I'm glad you brought that up. Interestingly, the published studies going back as far as 1930 indicate the efficacy of the diet with adults was about the same as with kids. And obviously where it got to be a little more difficult with adults is compliance. If you have a little kid and you control what he or she eats, compliance isn't as big an issue. But in terms of efficacy, and of course, going back to 1930, the diet wasn't, as you mentioned, nearly as sophisticated as it is today. And there were not those, like literally delicious food options that are available today.
Right.
And many of those delicious food options are in recipe form on our website.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We have Dawn Marie Martens, who's going to be doing a cooking demonstration with her daughter next up. She's written 2 cookbooks, one for the classic ketogenic diet and one for the more liberal version of the ketogenic diet. So when Charlie was a little guy, it was only the classic ketogenic diet, right? And you had very
Right.
strict recipes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Kelly mailed to you or faxed?
Fax.
It
We
was
had a
fa-
fax machine. Yeah. Back and forth.
Right. The dietitian from Johns Hopkins who put Charlie on the diet and oversaw the diet with him for the 5 years he was on the diet would communicate with us by fax. And she'd send through these meal plans, and that was it. There was no food labeling. There was no keto section in the grocery store. There was nothing. And Nancy would frequently just go to health food stores and look for stuff that didn't have sugar in it that we could give Charlie.
Yeah, we'd pace the aisles. Hours.
And I remember seeing a picture from maybe a magazine article that was written about your family, the old-fashioned scale that it's huge, but you could sit a baby in it. That's how big it was. Remember with the indicator that went around in a circle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they used to use the primary use for those, I think, was to weigh mail. If you're gonna, so you know
Yes,
how many
postage.
stamps to put on.
A postage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Postage. Yeah, the one we ended up doing, I still have. We still have it.
Really?
Yeah, non-electric. You'd measure the tier. We still have the one in the video.
Yeah. Those are antiques
Yeah.
Right.
because now
And
it's
then-
digital.
Yeah, we used to, at night he would have, I don't think they use anymore, the whipping cream thing,
Mm-hmm.
the formula, They didn't have keto baby food. What do you call what's the formula you have?
Oh, Keto Cal or Keto V.
Yeah, we made our own with the egg whites and the cream.
Yeah, the old-fashioned eggnog, keto
Yep.
eggnog, we called it in the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah, so things are so much easier, and my gosh, you hung in there for 5 years doing it. For most kids, it's 2 to 3 years. For adults, we're saying maybe you can't come off, but you could probably be a lot more liberal than we were ever with children. Kids are on a couple grams of carb a day. Adults can get by with maybe 15 grams a day, and a lot of the adults have really good ketosis with even 20 or sometimes even 30 grams of carb. But, so we try to make it easier for adults to stick to because they tend to be on it longer term, whereas little kids are on it just usually a couple years.
Mhm.
So we talked a little bit about how the diet has changed since Charlie was little. And I know that's good historical information to know. It's just incredible how much easier it is.
Oh, it's night and day. Literally, we knew no one else who had a kid on the ketogenic diet. It was the loneliest, and I guess, and I understand that it's still lonely today, but back then, really the only center that did the diet was Johns Hopkins, and we live in Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and we live in Los Angeles. So there was, and our friends thought we were nuts, I think. So it was.
I just
it was
remember-
a very kind of lonely experience. And the other thing that I think is real, I'd love to just mention a little bit, is the effect of having a kid on the ketogenic diet on his siblings.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very under-addressed, underappreciated part of having the kid on the diet, because the siblings, and if we were to go back, I guarantee what we used to do is we would kind of isolate Charlie, and the 4 of us because Charlie has two older siblings, and Nancy and Jamie and Joseph and I would eat dinner and then feed Charlie separately, which was a horrible idea. And, you know, and because it was a number of years. And today, I think what families do is they have the whole family participate in the treatment. So siblings and mom and dad really feel like they're part of the treatment.
Well,
and
there's
family
food
endeavor.
now that you can all eat together. I don't think Joseph and Jamie would have eaten 22 grams of rice
No,
with
but I think
cream
what they,
and chicken. But
what they
I
do,
agree.
yeah,
The whole
and
family
what they
eating
do now
together,
Yeah.
much more is make food that looks like what the kid on the diet is eating.
which you can do now, right?
Yes,
You
yeah.
couldn't do it too much then. There was no pizza. There was no anything like that,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, there's
but
muffins and cookies and pizza and
crackers and bread. And I mean, you know, truthfully, Joseph and Jamie eat ketogenically now and Charlie doesn't.
so Charlie's the only one not on a keto or a very
Keto-
low carb diet in the entire family. Everybody else is doing it for one reason or the other.
True.
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah.
Yep, it's true. So,
Yeah, I know.
but we used to, you know, I'd get Chinese food containers from stores and put his food in it. You know, there were games you could play, take saran wrap and separate his cake from other people's cake so that he couldn't see the visible difference, but you could do it. You know, there were a lot of ways to get around it. But, you know, look at how he is today. He's amazing.
The other thing that we would do, just because it was just Halloween, is Nancy would go to the dollar toy store right before Halloween and buy up a bunch of dollar toys. And then when Charlie would go trick or treating, Jamie, his older sister, would go one house ahead of us. And she would say, she would give the people at the door a toy. And she would say, when this boy comes around with a lion costume on or whatever he was wearing, would you give him a toy? And so by the end of the night of trick or treating, Charlie would come home with this big bag full of toys, and all the other kids would have little bags full of candy, and everybody would be jealous of him.
Yeah, I want what he has.
Yeah.
Have you ever told him that story? Does he?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he knows about it.
yeah, he knows. He knows. He
I think he
sees
remembers.
pictures. Well, he remembered some of that. I don't think he remembered the restrictions so much of the diet, but he remembers, like, we would cut up, you know, his cheese and make it like a log cabin and certain things that he does remember, but he might remember that. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
So do you ever get contacted by families saying that they learned about the ketogenic diet, they went to their doctor, and their doctor said, sorry, we don't do that here? What do you do in that case? Actually, that's what happened to you. Your doctor said, we don't do that here.
Well, actually, they
right.
said they
He
do
did-
it,
He
but with
did
no
more than
success.
that. He really
Well,
tried to talk us out of doing it at all. He was very aggressive about trying to talk us out of doing it at all at UCLA.
And then he
At one
offered to
time,
do it.
Nancy told me recently, when she took Charlie, I was kind of sold on at least trying the diet earlier. And she took Charlie to see our doctor at UCLA, and he tried to talk you. What did he say to you,
Out of
Nancy?
it. Yeah, he said, you know, he's because he went to my Italian side, and he said, you know, he's not going to be able to eat pasta, he's not going to be able to eat pizza, he's not going to be able to do this, he's not going to be able to do that, and just hit me with all the negatives. And you know, when someone says you're on a diet, and then you realize what the diet, I didn't realize what the diet entailed, and I was like, wait a minute, you can't do this, we can't do this, you know, and it was just divide and conquer, I think, for the parents. I think he made it very difficult to make a decision together, you know, and I think we had very little to read to educate ourselves on. So, you know, and the one thing you can give your kid as a mother is food. And like when you see your kids seizing left and right and they want to eat pretzels, Well, you want to give him a pretzel. What are you, that's his happiness. So then you're going to take away one thing, the thing that you think that's going to make him happy, and you can't give him that is hard, is a denial. It's so hard, till you get to see him not have seizures and you get that reward. But getting to this decision and the process of making it, and you hear everything that the negativity of it without the conclusion being good, is difficult.
Yeah, that's horrible. And to, I get why that happened 28 years ago, 27 years ago. Why is that happening now?
Right.
Why is it happening now?
Why is
Well,
it?
Right.
what we didn't realize, and there was tons of data available, tons of evidence available that the diet was efficacious back when Charlie was on the diet and decades before. So, but what we didn't realize until we started the Charlie Foundation is that there are lots of people who benefit from other therapies for epilepsy. Drug companies make billions, medical device companies make billions. As I mentioned, doctors aren't trained in nutrition or diet therapy. There were lots of myths around about the demonized fat, and that pervaded the whole Western diet about how dreadful fat could be for you. Insurance companies made it very difficult to reimburse dietitians who work at hospitals for their hours. I think that's still a big problem. And even hospitals, believe it or not, are businesses too. So, I've heard many times over the years from physicians who say their hospital, the first question, if they're going to add a new protocol to their list, they want to know, is it going to generate revenue before they want to know about efficacy? So there are lots and lots of things, even today, that contribute to the underutilization of the ketogenic diet. And Beth, you mentioned before, what do doctors do, physicians do, if they don't have a ketogenic diet program? How often do they refer? And our experience is it's not that often that then they'll refer to one of the many centers that today do have ketogenic diet programs. And I'm not sure what that's about.
Money.
Yeah. So fortunately, on the Charlie Foundation website, we have a list of not only hospitals that volunteer their information, that they have a program, but if you aren't near one of those hospitals or you can't travel to one of them, we have a list of specialized nutritionists. They're all registered dietitians who have been working in this field for a long time and have become private practitioners, and they'll work with you and they'll work with your doctor too. So that's another option that we have put together. We've organized from the foundation to make available to people, and they'll work with people all over the world.
Right, and we do our best to keep a current list of hospitals worldwide that have ketogenic diet programs. Unfortunately, there's no certification or central clearinghouse for those hospitals. So we rely a lot on them reporting to us to keep our list current. But that can be a valuable resource if someone is looking for a hospital with a keto program.
Yes. And one of our goals is to someday create that certification process. And we've actually had recent conversation about that. How,
I think Nancy should. Nancy, could you turn off?
I think she's getting ready to leave. Can you still hear us okay, Nancy?
Yes.
Can
There's
you
a little
hold your
traffic
phone
on the
still?
street.
Okay.
Can
Yeah.
you hold your phone still?
I actually have it on the seat beside me. Okay.
Anyways, so going back to, um, we, in the future, and so much of what we've done has been an evolution of moving with the times and bringing people with us who believe in this and gathering the professionals together and coming up with ideas for making this more available. Thankfully, the randomized controlled trials have been done for both children and adults. This diet's been proven effective, no doubt about it. There's no question about it. So that information is available in publications. But moving on to,
As well as, Beth, I think you mentioned, but there are published professional medical guidelines for administering the ketogenic diet. The original was in 2008, and then 10 years later in 2018, and they conclude, and these are some of the top scientists, neurologists, dietitians from around the world, and it's a consensus statement, and they conclude that the diet should be strongly considered after the failure of two medications, and in the case of certain epilepsies, including myoclonic astatic epilepsy, GLUT1, and several, that the diet should be strongly considered earlier. As a matter of fact, with GLUT1, it's a treatment of choice.
definitely. And speaking of consensus statements, the GLUT1 Foundation, which is, they're friends of ours, they just published guidelines for people with GLUT1 who all need to be on ketogenic diet therapy. So they followed what we did for the whole gamut of epilepsy, for that specific syndrome. And I think the same will happen for Dravet syndrome and Lennox-Gastaut and these other epilepsy syndromes where ketogenic diet therapy has been a leader in being one of the most effective treatments when medications have failed. So that's another part of this evolution, is that we've got information and we got to keep moving forward to help people get to the resources. And I think it's okay for me to talk about briefly. Dr. Rowe is an advisor of ours. He is an epileptologist now at Rady's in San Diego. And he's planning research to help identify, if you have epilepsy, when we do your genetic testing, what medication or maybe ketogenic diet, what would be the most effective for your type of epilepsy? And to have that information available through a blood test is going to be, groundbreaking.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off now because I'm going to go grab her.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Nancy.
Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, I'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
So Nancy's on grandma duty, and we're glad that she was able to join us because she frequently is called away to take care of grandchildren. But there you are. Okay. So
Okay, I'm hanging up, I
to
think.
summarize our discussion, Jim, I think it was good that we talked about, the evolution of ketogenic diet for being around for 100 years, when there's drugs that have only been around for a year or two and everyone tries them out. 30 or 40% of people don't respond to them. People with epilepsy don't that's the statistic now. It's 30 to 40% of people with epilepsy respond to traditional antidepressants. That's
Right.
huge. It used to be 30. So it's
And
growing.
you have to put an asterisk next to that, because of the people who do respond, there can be debilitating adverse effects from medications too.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And so those are the people that we want to know, should consider keto.
And And I would love to add to that too, that I think all of myself at the head of the list grew up thinking, well, you can go to a physician with a medical problem and he or she's going to fix it. And that's it. But sometimes that doesn't work. And so if you involve yourself more in what's involved in the fixing and educate yourself about the fixing, at first it's intimidating because, oh, it's kind of above my head. But once you start to wrap your mind around it, it's empowering to have a say and knowledge of your medical destiny. At least for me, it's no longer scary. It's really empowering. And I think that applies to all of us. And we can apply, even in medical situations, we can do that.
That is so profound, and I think worth a little bit more discussion. Being a medical professional and working in hospitals for about 20 years, and then coming away from that and having my own little private practice, when I go back to that setting for myself or for others, I realize like it is daunting for people to go into a clinic or a hospital and receive information, very quick and oftentimes very brief information, and being told that these are your options. And oftentimes that information is actually not complete or not full. And in terms of epilepsy, if you're not getting information about ketogenic diet therapy at the get-go, when you or your child is diagnosed, that's when you need to know about all of the available options, not just this is a drug. And it is, we do accept that the majority of people with epilepsy respond to either the first or second medication offered, but the fact remains is that 30 to 40% don't or have an adverse effect. But at any rate, you should know there's medications. A small subset of people are candidates for epilepsy surgery. There are even other options, music therapy, even some nutrition supplements have been researched. But you should be able to have access to all available treatment options at the point of diagnosis. When you talk about any other disorder or disease, that's what you get. You get all the options.
Wow.
And so
I thought way too many times how different things would have been if the first time we had walked into a pediatric neurologist office, somebody had given us a handout or a leaflet or something that said, after the failure of a first medication, there's a 13% chance a second medication is going to stop your kid's seizures, and a 1% chance that the third medication is going to do the trick. And as opposed to that, and these are statistics that go way back, for long before Charlie got sick. And as opposed to that, more than half the kids who try a ketogenic diet have their seizures reduced by at least 50%, and somewhere around 20% have their seizures go away completely. Now, if somebody had been kind enough to give us that information in 1993, we wouldn't have gone through the year of drugs and surgeries and damage done to Charlie's developing one-year-old brain. Did I tune out?
no, I always have to pause after you say that, because it's, that is our message, is that you need to know what the options are. And certainly we invite you to visit charliefoundation.org and write to us if you want to through the contact. That contact actually goes right to Jim, so he gets to see them first. I see that Dawn has joined us. And Dawn, I can't see your face. If you would want to turn your video on, you're welcome to join us in voice. And Christine, I think, is also joining us too. So you're welcome to join us as well. This event is being recorded, but unfortunately, the Epilepsy EXPO had a server outage today, and people are not able to, I've gotten messages that people aren't able to log in and are very frustrated that they can't reach these sessions. So, hey, Dawn, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Jim. I am finishing setting up my other camera so that we have a better angle for
Wow.
cooking.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn this off again, but I'll be right back.
All right. We'll see you soon. We talked about you. I bet your ears were burning.
I've been listening.
Okay. Do you have your cookbooks handy?
Yeah, I have one. I always give them away, so I rarely have one myself, but
All right.
I'll be back in just a minute
Okay.
once I get my cameraman ready.
All right.
Cool.
And now I'm starting to see other people join us, Christine and Dominique. And I see you probably, I bet they're on phones so that they're not, videos aren't popping up. But if you want to turn on your video, if you have the ability to do that, please do. We're just finishing up with this session, which was an interview of Jim and Nancy Abrams, founders of the Charlie Foundation for Ketogenic Therapies, parents of Charlie Abrams, whose story really has turned the tides, I think, in the world of keto. I mean, they're really the reason that there is an active keto movement right now for just about anything. And we are wrapping up our discussion on, what their experience was with Charlie, and then also what we do at the foundation, and kind of the evolution forward, looking forward, some things that we are hopeful to see come in the pipeline in the future. So if you're just joining us and would like to ask questions, feel free to unmute and ask. Looks like I can't unmute you myself. You have to unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if you can see me. I'm using my phone, so it's not.
Yeah, I can see you
it's
there.
not perfect. So yeah, I just joined in, so I missed some of the beginning conversations. My daughter has been on the ketogenic diet for 2 years, and so we got to know about your foundation, and so it was very successful for a few years, and then it stopped being successful when she hit puberty. So I'm just curious if it's something you've noticed with some people.
Yeah, may I ask how old she is now?
She's now 15.
She's 16. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, unfortunately, the hormones of development sometimes disrupt that seizure control. And there are things that you can do. Sometimes if she's able to get into a deeper state of ketosis, that may help.
Okay.
I don't know if you've tried some things like MCT oil is one
Well,
way.
yeah, that's the thing. We stopped. We were followed, like we're in BC, so we were followed by a BC Children's Hospital in Canada, and so we had a very good support for a long time. But when it stopped really working, we stopped the diet and went back on just using medication. So now she's back on the regular diet, like not the ketogenic diet, but her seizures are increasing.
Okay.
So my husband and I are debating if we should go back on this diet. So this is why I'm so interested in talking and listening to what you say, because over the years, I've become very aware of different things to help her. Like, for example, she has a craving for very heavy, um, like oil, so olive oil, for example, things that have oils in them, um, salmon, avocado, like naturally, she wants to eat very heavy with good fat ingredients. So we've just been naturally feeding her with all those things without being officially on the diet. So I find that interesting enough that we're thinking of going back on it. The MCT oil, we tried it also. So I don't know if it's improving, but she's craving it. But she's still having some carbohydrates. So it's not complete, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it would help her. If it helped her before when she was younger,
Yeah.
it's probably going to help her now. She just may need to be on it long term.
Yeah.
Did you say you live in Canada?
Yes.
What province are you in?
In British Columbia.
Okay. I don't know. You know, our website lists some of the centers in Canada that have active programs. So,
Yeah.
but
BC
Washington,
Children's Hospital has one.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would say either connect with them, or you can get a consultation through our ketogenic specialists. The Charlie Foundation site has, under resources, we have a list of specialists that work with people. But it sounds to me like she would benefit, and especially since she's kind of craving those foods anyways. Yes. She's telling you something there, right?
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Just before you finish, I just have a quick question. So over the years, we were very concerned about what we put on her skin, and especially when she was on the diet. And I know you have a list of products, and I have it. It's something I've consulted, and I bought your program also that it lists what to put on their skin. But sometimes you list ingredients having glycerin and things like this. And I know these are low carbohydrates. So how do you determine when something is low and safe for them to use, as opposed to something that should be avoided?
So first, we updated our list in a major way right in January, I believe. So if it's older than January, you have the old list, but the new list is actually in the store. This is a very time-consuming list, so we now sell it. Okay, yeah, but we have on the list are products that are either carbohydrate-free or very low on carbohydrate. And yes, some of them do have glycerin, but if it's not one of the top ingredients, then it's considered quite low. So unfortunately, with products, over-the-counter products, companies don't tell you how much. They won't quantify the carb. They'll just give you the ingredients. So we can only show the ingredients, and we highlight those carbohydrate ingredients so that you can see, if there's 20 ingredients and the glycerin is 18 or 19, it's pretty low.
Okay.
That's a pretty low. Myself, for lotions especially, I would rather put a pure, like shea butter, coconut oil. I would rather do that than anything that has ingredients, just because I think, we don't know the effect of any of the ingredients that can go through the skin, right? So it's better to use something you could even eat.
Oh no, we agree. Like we've always made our lotions for her while she was on the diet, just to be sure. But I'm just curious, like sometimes there are some things even though they're natural, they do have sugar-based ingredients. So I'm curious to know what is considered safe on the skin when you're on the diet. Yeah,
so that is the whole reason why we show the products. Like this is quite low on carbohydrate, but you can see that there's several products, and we put a variety because some people don't have some of those products, but there and the suggestion for using natural, which I think those are the best. If if I had my druthers, I would say just use natural products. Don't buy anything with ingredients, right? And we actually have a little guide for that too. It's called it's the one with the hearts. It's called Do It Yourself. And that's for making lotions and
Oh, I see.
lip
Okay.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all natural, no carb added. So it's a little
But I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of natural-based products are sugar-based. So, for example, they're based on like a lot of the surfactants, for example, are sugar-based. So I'm just wondering if it's something considered safe
I
for
wouldn't.
people on the keto. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
wouldn't. Yeah. You know, again, to me, if it's not edible, you shouldn't be putting it on your skin, because skin is absorptive. I mean, there are medications that you could put on your skin that get absorbed, right? So we
Oh,
know
yeah.
skin is absorptive, and for anybody that has epilepsy, I just think err on the safe side and don't use them.
Yeah. But the natural products based on sugar, you could eat them. They're natural. It's just that they're sugar-based. So that's why it's confusing for
Yeah.
shopping, for example.
So we have a little recipe book called Do It Yourself or Make It Yourself. It's got hearts, and that's all natural, no sugar. No sugar.
Okay, I'll have a look at it. Thank you.
Look at that. That's in the store.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for answering my
Thanks for
question.
joining us. Any other questions? Okay, I think we'll end the session because we're getting ready for our next session, which is recipe demonstrations with Dawn Marie Martens. And I believe Charlotte, her daughter, is going to be helping her. And Charlotte's been on keto for a very long time and is even making her own meals these days because she's so familiar with it and is learning to become independent. So I'll let Dawn talk about that, but she's getting her kitchen ready for viewing. So although she can hear us, she's not currently on video. So we have about 10 minutes left. People will be joining us, and we'll just go into this pause mode while we're waiting for our next session to begin. Thank you.
So Beth, I'm signing off.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. That was excellent.
No, it was great. I hope you're very good at this, and I hope some people, they figure out how to fix the technology.
Yeah. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow we're just going to show the video of it, so you don't have to join us live.
Okay, and
Okay.
yeah, and I will tune in some tomorrow and to
Okay.
see some of Dawn's stuff too. And I'd love to see some of the UCLA stuff.
Great. I don't know if they're putting that up because we have other centers. There's 4 centers that we're interviewing. So UCLA won't be posted tomorrow, but they'll probably put it up on their website for later.
I think somewhere I have that video that about the Charlie Foundation that isn't blocked by all those ads at the end. I think.
Can you
So
send me the link?
Is it worth it for me to try to find it?
Yes, because I'll show that. You know, I have some downtime between sessions, and I'll show it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll see if I can find it.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.